So this right here is the surprise release, and it may look very familiar to a lot of you, and it may look brand new to many of you. So let me just give you a little story about this. In the world of product design, even though I design for a lot of manufacturers, there's still all the same logistics, which is of course warehouse space, shipping logistics, inventory, all of those things. And so paper has been this hot topic in the creative world, especially in the world of ideology. I would have to say it has been the most requested product to bring back ever. And I wouldn't do it and couldn't do it. So this is a limited release from the vault of ideology paper. I'm going to take you through and talk about all the papers. I'll talk about just the whole premise of it, but we're going to take a little trip down memory lane. So papers, going back to the very first collection that we did, which was French Industrial, and I'll talk about the years that they were designed and all that when we get into each set. But started designing this type of, I'll say, more of collage paper in 2013 when actually Paula joined the ideology team. We took paper in a completely different direction. I'm so grateful for that, because before we had, Lost and Found and Crowded Attic, they were all ephemera based. But when we got into really design of paper, that was back in 2013. In 2021, I made the decision to retire all of the paper collections in both 12 by 12 and 8 by 8. And that was something that didn't really sit well with a lot of people. I understood, but hey, as a designer, you do what you do. And I think that to me is really important for me. And so I think what is really cool about this opportunity and bringing back old product is that we can see a return of stuff, because in 2021, I shifted my paper focus to backdrops, which are still in the ideology line today. Quite honestly, my favorite way of doing paper, because it's this odd shape, this odd size that people don't mind, excuse me, cutting up and using. But this was a big undertaking, because when we had the idea of talking about paper, this is where logistics come into play. And that's why I wanted to start out to be very clear about what this release means and how it works, okay? There are 6 paper collections in this vault release. This vault release is a one and done, meaning these are being released today. Retailers were asked to wait until quarter after, so it looks like another 8 minutes before they start putting it on their websites for sale and all that. So if you guys are frantically looking to buy and you're not seeing anything, that's because they followed our wishes, hopefully. And these papers will be available until they sell out. Once they are gone, they're gone for good. They're not coming back next year. They're not coming back in 2 years. They're not coming back in 5 years. This was a one-time opportunity that it was logistically challenging, because we had to go and kind of revise all of the art, but we learned a lot of stuff too when we were able to go back to this old art. I mean, obviously, like I said, French Industrial was back in 2013, but these papers, a lot of them have been retired for 5 years now, and most recently they've been retired for 4 years. So it was cool to also look at the art. So a shout out to Chris at Advantis, who initially designed all these paper collections. But more than anything, when we went back to do this reprint of it, he went and kind of highlighted all the colors again. So he retouched all the collections. So the colors, I think this time, they just have a little bit more punch, kind of what we're used to now. But more than that, we had the opportunity to revisit each collection individually. So let me explain what's been available and what hasn't been available before. I agree, Zoe. French Industrial, so good. So we'll go alphabetically, because it's just easier for my brain to talk about the collections alphabetically. And then I will the purpose of this live is I'm going to go through each collection's art and show you the fronts and backs of everything, in case this paper collection is completely new to you. All right. So all of these collections are available in 12 by 12 and 8 by 8. And for some collections, that's really a first time. First case, Abandon. Abandon, when we brought out Abandon, this came out in 2020. This was actually the last paper collection we did, but we only released it in 8 by 8. It was never available in 12 by 12. So actually, for this vault release, this is the first time this collection has ever been available in this size, which is really cool. So you get some newness as well as bringing back those classics, because it was technically no new art. So I stuck to my word of no new art, but bringing it back in a different size was very important. Now the paper collections, I'll talk about pricing. There are 24 papers in each set. So you get 2 each of the 12 designs. And that's how the paper collections were designed initially, 2 each of the 12 designs. The retail on this is, that to me is what's so remarkable. The 12 by 12 retails for $19.99 for 24 sheets of paper, and the 8 by 8 is $9.99 for 24 sheets of paper. And in today's paper marketplace, if you just go and shop other brands of scrapbook paper, you'll see that the price of this is crazy. Then that is because we did this last year, brought it in, and it was shipped last year, and Advantis has just been holding on to it for this release. So, obviously that was another logistical thing that we're fortunate enough that we planned this last year, so we got the paper in at this great price. What I would suggest to you, if you are liking this paper, is buy up on it. And I don't typically say that. I'm like, use what you have, and I still think that's important, but this is also important to understand that if you're looking for this paper or you've been waiting for these papers, it is important to get it while you can, because it's gone and it won't be coming back. So that is Abandon. We'll go through again, all the collections are individually. This is a classic. This is Correspondence. This is one of the first collections actually to get retired. This was released in 2015, 10 years ago. Crazy. One of my favorite collections because it's all that mail art, postage, all of those cool things to do with correspondence and communication. Now this is where we get into a whole different thing as far as scale. These papers initially came out in 12 by 12, and some of the designs of all of these remaining collections that I'm going to talk about, some of them were available in 8 by 8 assortment packs. The collections have never been available in their own 8 by 8 set. They've always been like, maybe 6 designs or 4 designs of a collection were in those collage packs. So we decided, instead of doing the collage packs, we will do the full collection in 8 by 8 also. So that's why you have scale. Tammy B, it is one of my favorites. I agree, but I love this. I can't wait to show you the art, but I told myself, just get through the collections and then we can just totally love the art. All right, so that's Correspondence. Then we have Dapper. Dapper's cool because this is where we have the cigar bands and labels and a lot of stitching and ticking and adverts, and it is a cool collection. It's got some great earthy tones with some punch of blue in there. So again, Dapper, 12 by 12, 8 by 8. The first time the whole collection has been done in 8 by 8. I do love Dapper. It's a good collection. Then French Industrial, which I talked about. This is, of course, the earliest paper, the first collection that Paula worked on with me back in 2013. It is an amazing paper collection. It just has some beautiful stripes and adverts. We actually, and you'll see closer when I show the design, but we put imagery in this paper. I mean, this was kind of really, it was kind of a telltale sign of where things were actually going to evolve in the world of ideology. We just didn't know that yet, about how photos and things would be such an impactful part of ideology. So French Industrial, really a cool collection. So much ephemera in this one as well. It's beautiful. Then my personal favorite in this would be Memoranda. And this is when we got into the whole collage space of incorporating labels and typography and cellotape. We did an entire line. This, of course, inspired the cellotape that's in ideology today, as that stickers. But we put this yellow tape on there as a way to kind of merge all of these elements together. Instead of them fading, we wanted them taped out. And I just love this collection. And so, yeah, Memoranda, I'm really excited that I have Memoranda, all of the designs in 8 by 8 as well as 12 by 12, because you might think, well, I don't scrapbook, I don't really need 12 by 12. And maybe you don't need 12 by 12, but if you do bigger projects, be that on a canvas, or you want the background in a journal page, or you're wanting to do, say, a vignette tray or a panel or a big, etc., it's just nice to have scale, because the scale of these are completely different. You'll see that when we talk about it. And then the 6th paper collection to make its return is Wallflower. And I would say that this would probably be just a general brand favorite. I would say this was our top favorite in the brand from a selling perspective. And I think just because of all the beautiful botanicals in there, it has birds and butterflies, some wonderful wallpaper, and some really rich kind of tapestry, almost kind of not totally floral, just has some really cool patterns to it. You'll see when I get into that. But this one has a lot of fades. So instead of the cellotape like Memoranda, this has all of those beautiful fades that we did, and that is Wallflower. So again, just to recap, these are the 6 paper collections that have been brought back, limited release from the vault, which means they are available. Looks like 1 minute to go, but maybe maybe everyone has a little bit different time and papers are available to buy. Once they are sold out from retailers, and this was something that was made available to everyone worldwide. So if your retailer didn't get it, it's probably because they just chose they didn't want to get it, and that's fine. But I know our distributors have it, all of that, and once it is gone for good. Janine says she still has the vellum Wallflower. So do I. I do have that. We didn't bring back the vellum because that was just too challenging. Because even logistically, from a production aspect, this was really a challenge to, and a big thing to Advantis, to Beth and Tracy and really the whole team at Advantis, in addition to Chris, to commit to bring this back, because it was a huge expense, as you can imagine, to actually do all of the, like, rescreen all of the papers, get the factories to bring it back. But here's the best part of all of this, okay? In addition to these coming back in both sizes, these did not come back in the gummed pads like they originally did. You know, back in the day, gummed paper pads were all the thing, but if you got the idea-ology paper pads, it was really not exciting to have to deal with that gum, because sometimes it would seep in and you would tear the paper and it would just annoy you. So instead, we did all of these paper collections as packs. That means there is no gum tab, they're in a bag. So all of these papers are loose. So you're right, no gummy mess. It is a nice thing, because again, you know, we kind of learned from that, and it was like, hey, well, let's find a bag. Let's find one that's sturdy enough that we could package it, that would hold 24 sheets of this paper. So yeah, we wanted to bring it back in a new and exciting way, but again, for a limited time. And I just want to be clear of that. Not to make you guys panic buy or freak your freak. It's really just so you understand. And if you see it online where people are like, I'm looking for this paper and I can't find it anywhere, this is the time to get it, because it won't ever be making a return. So I would just say buy whatever you like for as long as you plan to craft with it. And I think that's what's really great. So let's go through the art of each of these collections so you can see it, maybe to revisit it again, or maybe for the first time, okay? So we're gonna first start out, because I like to go alphabetical, we're gonna start out with Abandon. Now, Abandon, this is a really beautiful, colorful release. Like I said, this was the last one we did, and this inspired a lot. There's actually a fabric collection that I did with Free Spirit for Abandon as well. It is just beautiful, kind of unfinished, colorful art. And I wanted to do both of these because I thought it was important to always show scale of the paper. So when it comes to the design, you can see that these are double-sided papers, just like the original collection, but the colors so rich, so beautiful, and scale-wise is also important. So this is where I was talking about, you know, do you really need both sizes? It depends on what you do. If you do a lot of card making, I think either side would work either size works in card making, because you can, on the larger ones, you can actually isolate more of a color, where if you were doing this, you are isolating more of the design. I hope that makes sense. So that's going to be, and I think I put these in the right way. Let me look. I might have, well, we'll see. That's the front. This is the back. There we go. I tried to put them in order where I could just do fronts and backs of each sheet, just so you guys can kind of see the design. But see, I love this. It's kind of like an old tiley floor. It's just, yeah, Abandon's my jam too. It's really, really beautiful. So we have that. I'm just going to set these over here, Mario. I'm just going to start stacking them up. So that's what that pile's for. All right, take a look at this one. What was cool when we were working on Abandon, and Paula had this idea of like incorporating some typography into this, and I love that because it does add a lot of interest to these designs. But take a look at this, how like rusty and drippy and perfect for mixed media. So this is also good foundational art if you just wanted to work with that, say in a journal or a junk journal, and then start adding your elements to it. That's a beautiful thing about Abandon. It's really good. That's one side. See, I guess I didn't flip these. Maybe I wasn't going to go through the 8x8s. That's probably why, but I'll do it now because I can. There's the back of it. I love that bright orange in there. All of those kind of scratchy little, they almost look like little gesso lines. Just good one. And this was also a paper collection that was quite a departure for idea-ology at large. You'll see that, you know, Abandon looks nothing like the rest of the collections that I'm going to show you, because they all have that wonderful muted vibe. This was, boom, like we wanted to just go bold and bright. So throwing in the lime and chartreuse and all that, it makes this collection really relevant, especially today in mixed media. So of course you can You can do stenciling over the top of this and stamp, and you can do all of your textures. You can do spritz. You can do all of those things if you wanted to on this paper. And remember, you're getting 2 sheets of each one. There we go. This one of my favorites, because I love the ledger. Like, look at that ledger there. But it kind of just looks like, I don't know, some ink and then like a marble or something was rolled across that art. Have you seen people do that with inky marbles? It just creates a cool effect. I love this one. I just love the color, and of course, no surprise of all the grunge that's there. But the detail of these papers, they're beautiful. They really are. This one, I mean, this one's crazy because it has almost like that metal, that rhodium finish of, you know, almost like an oil slick as well. It's got purples and violets, but it just has a really great reflection. It's not a metallic paper at all, but it's just the color of this art. And there again, that just really beautiful typography that goes across. And of course, if you didn't want that, I mean, we didn't put it to where it's going to ruin the whole aesthetic of the design. You could always crop that out, but just the backgrounds in both scale, beautiful. I love how excited you guys are as well. That validates all of this because it was a big ask. I'll be honest, when I suggested this to Advantis, because when they're like, is there anything, you know, I know you're not designing new for 2025, but is there anything, you know, that you'd like to bring back? And I'm like, personally, no, but what people have always asked about is bringing back the paper, because if they would have known it, I mean, we've heard everything. If I would have known it was gone, I would have stocked up. I couldn't find it anywhere. And really, these papers are selling like on eBay for $75 a pack for the old gummed pads. And that was a whole nother thing that was, you know, discouraging. So when I said to Advantis, yeah, I'd like to, like, okay, well, why don't we just pick a couple of them, pick a couple of your favorites. Are they matte finish? Yes, they're matte finish like all of the other papers in Ideology. So when they said, well, which collections would you want? I'm like, well, to be honest, you know, I would do all of the collage ones, because I didn't think we needed to go back to the ephemera ones, because we have photo booth now. We have tickets. We didn't need it as paper. I'm like, so it's all 6. And they're like, oh, could we do them as assortment packs? I'm like, no. To make matters worse, I'd actually like them in both sizes. So I'm just really grateful that they did it. I think that's beautiful. All right, there you go. Linda asked, would you ever consider selling digital files? Maria's pointing that out. No digital files for this, because just the art is licensed, and so it's not something that we would offer digitally. So this is Auburn, New York. I love this one as well because I love kind of the scratchy, the patinas, the orange in there. It's just gorgeous. Then you got this one. Take a look at that. Let me flip this one over. See, this one, I mean, just that rusty kind of drip, and again, a little bit of script, typography, little specimens of handwriting. Just abandon. It's a cool collection. I mean, and every time we kind of turn the page, we also get to a whole other color. That to me is so beautiful. It's really, really crazy. Look at that. Hotel Burgundy. Amazing. The pinks, the magentas, the purple. I just love that. And what a fitting bit of typography. I remember when we were designing this, and Paul and I, we were just looking for kind of like headers and things that would really lend themselves to the design, because the designs we already chose, and it was fun. I think we did really just an amazing job of what they are. There's the back of that. I'll flip that one over. Cool. Look at this, a little theater. So cool. Just reminds me of, like, you know, an old theater with like the wallpaper just kind of wearing away. Beautiful, beautiful. So happy you guys are happy. Love this. This one's really beautiful because it's got a lot more purples and teals and turquoise, but it even has, can you see this? I'm going to show this up here. The Damascus there. Look at that. Beautiful. Just a little bit in the background, and then of course that typography there. And then this one, wow, look at that. That beautiful design. Again, a little bit of ledger typography in there. We're just at abandon right now. That's what I'm saying. Like, I really wanted to take the opportunity to kind of go through and talk about what this is and just how beautiful that each collection is, because really I think we kind of forget what that is. I saw a paperweight collection. I think it's 180 GSM. It's close to 100-pound text weight, which is the same weight all the papers have been, all the original papers and the current backdrop papers. So if you're familiar with Ideology cardstock, it is the same. Take a look at this, like, crackled mosaic, almost like a little eggshell. Isn't that cool with that blue coming through? I mean, here's the other cool part as we're going through the art. If you're looking for inspiration, all you have to do is Google the paper collection, and you'll see the makes from all the years past of how that works. So this one is a beautiful crackle finish. I love the crackle in this. There is some text going through the back. Can you see that? So beautiful. I love that. But just a great crackle finish. And see, this is where the scale, I think, is super important. Oops, sorry, Mara. Then we've got this wonderful rust, little concerto. I have a shirt that looks just like this. Very plaid, not surprised, right? So, so good. Here is the back of this one. This one has a great kind of a chippy little, I mean, I can name all the distress colors. This is like fossilized amber into scattered straw with a little mustard seed, but listen, I digress. It's just really, the textures of Abandon are unlike anything else because it's got all of those worn bits. And this is where paper, especially in the world of ideology, comes into play, because if you take even a sheet like this and you apply it to something, it looks like you've created that effect on your project. That's the other great thing about it. All right, take a look at that. Ooh, for all those people that love the teals and the turquoise, you know, from tumbled glass to peacock feathers, salvage patina. Yeah, this floral one, I love that it's got a little bit of music in there. Isn't that pretty? Such a good one. Such a good one. So he said it's one of her faves. It is. It's so pretty. I love looking at this. I love seeing Abandon. I mean, I've seen Abandon in a big scale in fabric, but I love seeing it as paper because we never had it in 12 by 12. And just the art just lends itself to both scales. It's so impressive. All right. This is the back. Again, it kind of reminds me, again, like that little marble thing where we've got that marble rolling around in there. It's got some nice grunge, but that's really what it looks like. It's like something was drugged through the paint layers that were on here. Just beautiful. Then we have this one. This one almost has like a bit of a plastic wrap vibe. It's got some great earth tones, as you can see, some greens and orange, some yellows, a little bit of chartreuse, a little bit of lime. But this one almost looks like it's been scrunched and then a layer has peeled off. But there is typography in here. You can see that little bit of ledger in there, and it's kind of faded all throughout the back. I mean, that's the other thing about this collection is there's so many different elements and layers in there. That's so cool. All right, let's flip this one. See, this one's also really beautiful. I think just because it has that wash of purple, but see, that's the other part of Abandon. Each design, it's like its own thing. And I called it Abandon because to me, it reminded me of like an artist sitting down to start painting and then walk away. They just abandon the idea because it could be finished to some people. Some people might see it as like finished art, but I think for the maker, it was just the foundation that you could add your own creative spin to it and make Abandon whatever it is that you wanted it to be. So I think that's it. I agree. Typography is where it's at, Stacy. That to me is just, it's a great breakthrough. All right. One of my personal favorites would be this one in the back. I just think that, I don't know, it looks like a melted film strip. It isn't, but that's just what it reminds me of. And I love that we have London over there. We've got these numbers, but let me just hold it up just so you can see what I'm saying. Like almost like some melted plastic that went through and some little char links, but you get that wonderful linear space. I love all the text in there in the background. Those are all just from an old math book, but isn't that one cool? That was my favorite. No surprise, right? All neutral and browns. Yeah. And then another crackle that is different. This is, of course, this is the back of that, but this is also kind of one of that little eggshell one. But the other one has like more of that white and some circles. This is a completely different fragmented design, but I love the blues and rust. So yeah, beautiful, isn't it? So those are the designs of the Abandon collection. All right. Wonderful. It's fun to go through it. It's fun to go through it and kind of revisit all those. Thanks, Mario. I'll probably just keep those for the end, but you can take those. Thank you so much. All right. Next, we're going to talk correspondence. All right. So correspondence, like I said, it just really has that like mailbag, handwritten letter, but also a little bit of travel. There's definitely a little travel vibe in correspondence. So let's bring that in. There we are. There we are. Okay. Let's take these off and get to it. Okay, so for correspondence, we have the map. So I do love that travel map. I think that's really unique to have just it's kind of came from an old cable, so it was just a wonderful way of communication, but also just some of the faded print. But you can see that when we get into this particular paper collection, it is very themed, and I think that's what we did, and that was the difference between these collections and like our current backdrops, which are not themed, they're very random. But I love that if you are doing travel journals or just even for pops of color, this one's very popular just because of the red that was in it. Then the back of this, I should probably, well, I'll flip it each time. It doesn't really matter. So the back of Correspondence, we went with like more simplistic backgrounds, if you will. This is a small graph, if you take a look at this. So if you're looking for a really tiny graph paper, but they all have imperfections. That's the other important thing. It's not like we just took stock. You can see some of the staining, a little bit of foxing in there. So that is the blue graph that's on the back of this one. I love this one because these are all vintage airmail labels. So we scanned those in, and Chris did a great job with this background. This one's super fun to cut apart, but I see people talking about travel journals, all of that. Did we incorporate new design? No, there's no new design, just the scales that I talked about at the beginning. We didn't add anything different to the collection other than adjust the color. So that is the front of that. And then of course the back, I'll flip this one over, is going to be the red graph. So same scale as the blue, just in that really great red. So you're able to kind of take this. And again, a lot of these papers, you can stamp on them, stencil, do all of those things. So I think it's just beautiful. All right. Then we have this one, which this one ended up being a really popular stamp, if you guys remember that. Yeah, I think this is in, maybe it's in Departed, maybe, the stamp set. But I love that we've got just a lot of vintage postcards in the back, some handwriting, game cards, some labels. Just makes for a great collection. I think that little flower, it's just an unexpected surprise, which I absolutely love it. The back of this one, we have just that blue design. That blue floral, if you take a look at it, because nothing wrong with having a little correspondence, little graph, and little floral. Beautiful. I love that you guys see. It's fun just to look at it, right? It's like, gosh, more of that. Just going through the art of it. This is a fun one. I like that it has a little bit of a retro kind of background to it, and then this came from an old catalog of selling typewriters. So I love the typewriters, and it has little close-ups of the gears, some typed out letters here, and then of course that keyboard schematic. That's just a cool one. This is great. And some of these designs are also in fabric. I mean, that was the other thing when I did my fabric with Free Spirit Advantage, we sent a lot of the art over. So this is that retro design that's kind of faded in the front half of that paper. Isn't that fun? Just love it. It even looks like the lining of a suitcase as well. I do love the colors. It's great. Then we have the map, a very popular one. This kind of went into Expedition, but the colors of this map paper, so good. So good. So you've got this world map as a 12 by 12, and then obviously scaled down into the 8 by 8. But yeah, all the details of that, it's pretty. It's really, really cool. The back of it, probably one of my favorite designs as well. I don't know why. I've done this. This has been a paper. This has been a background stamp. This has been an embossing folder. This design. So that's one of the things when I was going through the paper is kind of like a trip down memory lane where I'm like, wow, I must really like this design because I use it on a lot of other things. I just love that pattern. It just has such a cool aesthetic to it. But this is giving you the look of really what these papers look like. We take our grunge seriously. We want it to have that stained, just great old world look. So we do that to the art. It's really important. All right. This one's really charming. Hello, sweetheart. This was just a wonderful telegram that we had, and we wanted to scan it in. So it's really charming. I miss you very much. Goodbye for now, honey. I miss you very much. Love. We just took, we took off their names just to respect their privacy from 1946. Beautiful, right? So the back, let me flip these over. Gosh, I need like one of those little finger picker uppers. The back one, I know that it looks kind of plain, but it really isn't. It's a tiny, tiny little polka dot with some little worn out spots. So there again, the scale of these, they're going to be different. And I think what's nice about having something like this, again, keep in mind that certain papers, often when we're doing backgrounds, and I'm guilty of this as well, I tend to go for watercolor cardstock, mixed media heavy stock, something. But it depends on what you're doing. If you're not doing a lot of spraying and all of that, this is really great for ink blending, stenciling, stamping on there, because you already have a background foundation to work on. So I know you do. I was waiting for you, Paula. She's like, I love a good polka dot. Absolutely. And it's all about the scale, the orientation of it. My gosh. And when you're staring at a screen of polka dots for so long, where she's like, can we increase that like just a couple clicks? Oh, yeah, but it's worth it in the end. Take a look at this one. I love this collage as well because it's got a lot of great elements. We've got the airmail postage. We've got this great compass. I love that strip like you would see from an airmail envelope. And all of these things were scanned in from different bits of ephemera. And if anything looks familiar, like I've seen that in Ideology ephemera. Yes. I've seen that incorporated into a stamp. Yes, that's in the special delivery. Because all of the work, that was I think what I love about designing for so many different brands is that you could take great art and I would see it in different ways. So I think that's what's always so amazing. Here's another one of these backgrounds. And again, we just chose stuff that has just a cool vibe. I always look at these and think of these as either the lining of like an envelope or of course the lining of a suitcase. I think that the idea of that is just really cool. Okay, beautiful. Then we have this one. I love this in Correspondence because it is all about the letters. So these were scanned in mail, everything from airmail letters to postcards and we kept all the postage stamps in there. Some of these have really unique commemorative stamps on there. I just love it. And I love the colors of it as well. So this is something that you could go in and you can cut something out, or if you were going to use it on a project, if you like to sew, you can sew around that edge to highlight it. There's so many different ways that we can use these papers differently than we did when they first came out. But I think seeing the scale is super important to understand that I think there's a need for both. Look at this background. This one's also my jam because having it in both scales when we have these stripes, that means like, let's say you're doing, say, the binding of a book or of a journal. You can cut this all into strips and now you can wrap it around things. So, often when you look at paper, you think, well, I'm not going to do a big foundation. Well, cut this into paper strips. So if you just slice this out, this could be something that goes on the edge of a page. This could go around a vignette box. This could go around a trim for a tag. I mean, we sell paper strips in Ideology now just for that. Sometimes you want to strip of paper. So when you look at these backgrounds, instead of seeing that whole thing going, gosh, what would I do with it? Chop it up. That's what you would do. And then you could use it. So great. I just saw a comment and it went by too quick, but something like, I already feel like I don't want to use it. I hear you, which is why you really should consider. And I mean, really, I don't want to feel like a hard sell because I'm not trying to sell. I just don't like the disappointment in the end and this reminds me of like when we did rock candy glitter. I don't think I have my jar of it. Normally I do. I was going to say, normally it's really close. When we did this rock candy glitter, this was like a commemorative thing in this bottle. People were like, I don't think I want a $25 jar of glitter. When would I ever use it? And it sold out, like it was gone. And then people are like, oh, I wish I would have got one. Oh, I wish I would have got more than one. It's just that thing. And I don't want you to have FOMO. So that's why I think it is important that we talk about it and show you the art. So you're like, oh, if I would have known that's what it looked like, I would have got more. Or if I would have known, the ideas behind it, I would have got some. So Frank was like, it was gone. It was crazy. And people are like, you need to bring it back. Well, no, that's just not how it works. So, but rock candy might come back someday. This definitely won't. I love the idea of this crease. This was actually, the reason these creases are there, we did not put these in digitally. This was something that I bought. It's actually the instructions of an old model airplane set. So when I opened up the instructions, it already had these stained creases and I'm like, we scanned it in and we were done. This was actually a pretty easy one because, I mean, come on, look at that. It's just goodness. It's just so good. Then the back of this one has the stars. I love the blue stars. So again, you could think of different ways that you wanted to incorporate this one. I absolutely love it. Love the idea of those stars to use, well, whenever you want. We've got the blue ones. This is a definite favorite. For those that even remember fabric, we did this probably in several different fabric releases as well. I loved all of these tickets. These are like transit tickets, bus tickets, and tickets that we scanned in. This was something that was important. We even used these in the Ideology ticket book. I can think of so many different ways we used this actual ticket art, but I think I love the colors of it, but I also love the fact that, some designs we actually layered things like the letters where they were overlapping. And this one, we just kind of pieced it together. So it's really fun to cut out. You could cut it out and have your own larger paper tickets or smaller paper tickets. So you could cut those out and staple them, or, you know, add them to a card or whatever. I think it's just good. It's really, really good. There are many retailers out there that have the paper, so check for the retailers that have stock. That would be my suggestion. I love the background of this one. So you take a look. So sometimes when it's close, it looks like little flowers, right? And when it's far away, it has kind of this geometric vibe. I like this. I like all the patterns we did. Paula, we did good. Isn't it fun to kind of go back and like, I'll be honest, when we did this, I wasn't even looking at the designs closely because I wanted to save it for live. It is like a trip down memory lane. So good. Because I remember this not just for paper, but how many people used this design in so many cool ways. And again, if you're looking for inspiration on any of these paper collections, just Google that collection name. And I'll talk about the collections at the end as well. But like if you Googled, you know, Ideology Correspondence paper and click images on Google, you'll find so many different makes that were inspired by the different designs. And I love this one because I love the Union Jack. I also love the stamps and the tickets, just that big percentage. Back here, it's actually a little part of a map. There was so much layered into this one. It was just really, really just beautiful. It's a great design. Isn't that great? Then we have this background. Again, this is just kind of like just a little blue pattern. Doesn't have any additional small lines, but it's a nice design nonetheless. It's a great background because, you know, you want things that are going to complement. If you're going to layer these pieces together, that's what we wanted to do on the paper design. That even if you were going to fold it, you know, to use it as a journal, we want something that's going to obviously work together. That's really good. Check out this postal rate chart. I bet it doesn't have the figures on there, but I bet it's not even close now to today's postage rates. But I love this. It's got I'll hold this a little closer so you can see. It's got this really cool old-fashioned chart, and then we also just put in some typography. There's an old pen in here. You can see a little globe and then just some measurement scales. And then all through the back, it's actually a really faded version of that blue graph. And then also some numbers from a map. I think it's like it's a tidal chart, like tides of, yeah, how the water's rise. This one, of course, this should be pretty classic, the back of that. This is, I think, that classic inside of an envelope, you know, that important legal correspondence. But yeah, I'll hold the bigger one up. You probably can see it more. There you go. They're little globes. See that? This is a great travel background. This would have been a good stamp now that I look at it. It's just cool, right? Just seeing those. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. What stores carry product? My advice would be just to Google Tim Holtz Ideology, and a lot of places will pop up so you can see it. So that was Correspondence. Next up, we're going to talk Dapper. See, we're going alphabetical. Dapper, you'll see, just has a lot of really rich, dark tones, but that's because as these papers were coming out, keep in mind, these were in Ideology all the way through to 2021. So even though, like when we get to French Industrial, even though that came out in 2013, it wasn't like the collection retired the next year. So when you think about it, I mean, French Industrial was on the market for like 8 years before it was retired. It wasn't like these were in and out, but when they retired, they all went away at one time. So Dapper, cool collection. Excited to share this one with you. This inspired a lot of stuff. I mean, we did a full Dapper fabric collection as well, because seeing this on linen, seeing it on chairs, just very cool. All right, let's get to it. So this first one, cigar box, a definite favorite. I know it's a definite favorite of Paula as well. The typography of cigar boxes and the graphics and everything is just, it is so good. I absolutely love the whole look of this. So this is just a bunch of cigar boxes that, yeah, have in our living room that were scanned in. And it just has some beautiful labels, all the different weights. I love that. But more importantly, I think all just like the wood grain that you see in this one, this is a cool piece to use. Absolutely love that. The back of this one is the handwriting, and this might look familiar because yes, I've done several stamps of this script, but this is just, it's a beautiful background. Great one that you can cut apart, especially if whatever you're doing, whether it's cards or journals or anything. It's just really, it's good. Yeah, beautiful. Paul said probably your number one favorite. I think you're talking probably that side. I would have to I would have to agree. That right there, that's a sweet spot for me because it's got that little handmade. And those of you that have followed the Tim Holtz brands for years and you're like, I think I've seen a piece of ephemera like that. I've seen like design tape like that. Yes, yes, and yes. Because as we're doing stuff, often like even when we're working on paper, we would isolate something and be like, that would make a good ephemera, or that might make a good repeat for tape. So we were always looking. It's fun to look back. This typography, these actually came from like a typeset book where you got to pick different fonts and different types. And I love it. I love the scanning of that. Just how we incorporated so many different type styles of typography and then just grunged it up a little bit. So great one. Again, think about cutting it into strips and how you would use that. You know, maybe you would place that down or sew through it or whatever. I think it's great. Ooh, a cocktail book. I just thought that is a great idea, Maria. I love that. Here's the back of this one. Again, just kind of a damask, but this one I'm going to hold a little close so you can see, because, you know, don't be fooled by just looking at it going, oh yeah, okay, I've been there, done that, wallpaper. Nope. This one actually has tiny, tiny text through the whole black portion of this one. So this is really great when it's isolated and just adding a paper doll or a photo on top of it, because it's not just a solid black. You can see how the typography is just faded in there, and it's in both of that. Beautiful, right? Okay, now we'll get into the measuring tapes. Again, you could already see like a perfect one just to cut apart, right? These are vintage tape measures, so a lot of them, like even when they have stitching. So this one would not be, if you were one of those people that are expecting perfect linear lines, this one is not really that. We kind of did our best, but on this one, see where it's a little bit wonky? We just embraced the imperfection. I didn't want to digitally alter it. It is what it is, so let's just use it like that. So I love the fact that, you know, you could use it as a background. You could then just go in and sew directly over the top of it, do your little ziggity zaggity, or cut it up, and you can have a lot of different background foundations. And of course you can do it horizontal or vertical, because some of these numbers actually run vertical. So it's a great paper. It's a really fun design to work with. The back of this one, of course, is a graph, but different than Correspondence, as you can see. This, I would say, is more, you know, old school graph paper, but we did a lot of fun yellow staining, some foxing on there just to warm it up a little bit, because this goes really well with a lot of the other art that's in Dapper, like the cigar boxes and all that you would want to put, you know, maybe something that just rests the eye a little bit. So love it. It's really good. Ooh, this one. These blues. I love the idea of, I think Chris had this idea of just kind of inverting the type just to make it white, so it kind of looks like the little chalk lines of an old Taylor, and I love it. I love what we did with this one. It's forever a favorite. It's a bit tricky. I think it kind of stands on its own, so if you go to use it, you know, it's still a good foundation, but you could still do this and add a paper doll, or again, add any ephemera. Stamping on it, you know, you probably need to do something, probably stamping, embossing in white, but I don't know if this is really a good stampable one, but it's a great one to cut up, because I love that look. I love the colors too. Then we see the backs of this. This came from an old catalog. You can see all of the men's shirts with the collars, and yeah, all of the, it was pretty fun. I think this was a French catalog as well. Hard to believe that this was designed, what, like 9 years ago is when Dapper came out. So when you think about it, I mean, we were doing crazy stuff for a long time. We just did what we wanted to do. And I love it, because I do think that art in itself, it's timeless. It's how you want to use it, how you see it. And that's what I think I was most excited about bringing all of these back, because it's like, heck yeah, I would work with these again. And I could still use them with backdrops. I can still use it with all the stuff that I have, or any of the most recent stuff that I have. I love it. So this one, again, all the numbers, and you've seen these in ephemera packs where we just kind of did one of each number. This in particular, people were like, I wish you would just do a whole pack of these so I can just cut out all the numbers and use them on all my journals and all that. Well, you're in luck. If you get the paper, you're actually getting 2 sheets. There's your front and back of the numbers. So you'll have plenty of numbers that you can work with, but I do love them. And of course, love them in the scale. So just for that, if you're like, I'm going to cut these up and put them in their own little bag or container, then yeah, it would just be for the numbers, because, well, it's a good one. These are old chipboard numbers. I love them. I think I have them. I don't even know where I put them. I was going to try to bring them in, but I don't know what drawer I put them in. Anyway, the back of it, a map, and you've probably seen this in a lot of things. It's one of the favorites. We might have even incorporated some of this. I don't know if we use this map in palette or not. I think we might in the charcoal design. I do love this map. It's the Central Business District. It has so many cool things with all of the compass and the different cross streets. It's just cool. So I do love that. Isn't that great? See all the little writing? It's neat. So fun. All right. Telling you, Dapper is a good one. Even if you're like, oh, I'm not really into grunge. I wouldn't call this grungy. It has a different, definitely a warmer vintage aesthetic, but cool. So back to cigar boxes. You saw the lids that we did. Cigar boxes often have a trim that goes around the edge of the box. We scanned in all of those trims, and you could even sometimes find trims that, before they were glued, like vintage ones. So these are all scanned in. Again, beautiful background. Great if you wanted to isolate it with sewing or just cut it apart and have your own strips to wrap around. Maybe you want to wrap it around the base of a display dome, or maybe you wanted to use it to make a little band to put cards or ephemera in for a journal. But these are really great to cut apart as well. And I think just the colors, the typography, they all have those original cigar brand names. But really, it's about color and typography. I love this. This was a design tape at one time where we just had rolls of the adhesive back tape. I think you can still find it out there. It's long been retired, but it was one of my favorite tapes too, because it made it easier to wrap around. This is the back of this one. You can see just that great design. Just has, I don't know why we chose this other than we like it. Half the time it's just because we see something and we like it and we think it goes, and that's the magic of it, right? So these are kind of like vintage receipts, and a lot of these headers we used on things like Abandon. This is where you get the really great typography for a lot of things. You've also seen it go into stamps and even Halloween, especially when I saw this one. I'm like, oh my gosh, this was actually a Halloween backdrops and a Halloween stamp. And this wasn't even a Halloween paper at the time, just whatever clicks. But these have all these different businesses, all these different letterheads on there. And then we just collaged them. Some of them had little stamps because they were receipts, which is cool. And then we get into the background of this. I love this kind of gray blue ticking. Beautiful, beautiful background. Definitely grunged around the edges, but perfect nonetheless. But I love these stripes. It's the colors of this, really cool. And we did a lot of these stripes. You'll see, I think in French Industrial, we did quite a few more. So I think that's great. Beautiful. This design, this is just one of those kind of floral designs that just struck with us. Paula's always been one that really wants to implement like a bit of a floral element, and I love that it's always a surprise in a collection, but it somehow goes because this could be like, the old upholstery of a study or something like that. I just think it's really cool, but I love the colors of it. Has a lot of little detail in here in both of the scales. That's the other nice thing about this paper, is the detail is not lost depending on whatever scale it is. I think that's really beautiful. All right. The background of this one, again, just kind of looking at just that old pattern. This could be like, I don't know, a tie or like a men's vest. I love that because really you get a very cool textile look to it. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but the cream background definitely has a little bit of a linen texture to it. I think it's good. The other thing to notice when it comes to scale, because we grunge the papers when we design it at its original scale, let's just say the 12 by 12. You can see here, this is a great one to show the example, like when these get shrunk down, that grunge becomes, I think, just a bit more apparent because, there's like staining going through the whole paper. And so you can even get where this one just, to me, this reads a little bit darker than this one, but the brown is the same. It's just that you're seeing the grunge in a more compact area. And I love that. I love that we kept it just authentically scaled. We didn't try to redesign each one based off of its size or scale. All right. Okay. What do we have here? What's this one? This one is, I'll flip. See, did I flip? Did I not? Okay. Number cards. Huge fan of these. I love these. I would do a whole pack of number cards if I could, but I love the idea of how we have all of these different colors. These are old game cards. We just did a repeat pattern of those game cards and then used the trim around the edge. But there again, if you like numbers or collage backgrounds, this is really a perfect paper design for that because, well, we love numbers. The back of this one, we got a little fun. It's got some florals to it and it's put over a plaid. But there again, this could be like a look of a vest or, you know, even some upholstery. I just think it's really unique. I'll hold this closer so you can see. But yeah, you've got those. And this is, this might read black on the camera, but this is really a deep navy blue, almost like chipped sapphire, if you will, just a deep blue over that linen color. Nice. All right, another cigar feature are the bands. So we've used the trim, we use the boxes. These are cigar bands. Because the shape, of course, is super unique to it, and we just wanted to line it up and put it onto the paper. Didn't want to make much of a collage of this because as a maker, I thought it'd be fun just to go and kind of cut these out, isolate them, and wrap them around things. You know, maybe you are going to put them at, like as a closure around a spine or just on a card. You might want to put it on, you know, on something, and maybe you're going to have some die-cut flowers or something coming out of that and just really treat it as tape. But each one of these, of course, all unique from the different cigar companies, typography. It's got just a cool repeat on there. So different scales. I love that. It's fun. Then, of course, we have the black and white diamonds. There again, you've probably seen this as a stamp and embossing folder because I love a lot of solid geometric designs, but this one's got just some great lines in there. And I love the black and white diamonds that appear on that for the scale. And then we've got, of course, all the grunge. Woohoo! So good, right? So good. All right. Then we have, I love this because it's kind of like a schematic. You've seen this, of course, as things for background stamps, but I loved the idea of this gear. This fit really well with the typography of a watchmaker, jewelry shop. But then we put like a little mechanics chart. There's so much classic art that comes into these papers that after the collection, we've used in so many different ways. I think this might even be a backdrop, but we might have taken this art and did black and white or something similar. But I love this. It had a great feel for Dapper. You can see this, of course, is blue. So we did that kind of blue print on it. That number strip at the bottom, because why not? Kept that signature in red. Just good. It was really good art. Then this background, beautiful. If you take a look, I'll hold this one closer as well. You just have some wonderful little type, little print. This was from a newsprint, and then it's got this cool graph that we layered over the top of it. It's kind of reddish on the print. I wouldn't say it's bright red, but it's kind of reddish, has a little bit of a reddish vibe to it. But just a great background paper nonetheless. It's really, really nice. Okay. Then this is just fun. I think one of the things that I've always loved about designing is that when we like it, and that's the fun thing of ideology too, we can just go with it. It's not like, oh, you know, this doesn't fit a theme. Well, in the world of Dapper, this could be Dapper. These all came from, I think this came from an old encyclopedia that was talking about health and fitness. And I just loved all of these illustrated diagrams from, like, you know, exercise and swimming and, you know, how to dive and, you know, climbing a rope and boxing. It was really just fun art. So we just used it. I love all the diving and swimming. It's just really fun. So we put in Dapper. Why not? I think it's cool. So yeah, I do love that. And then this, of course, is the back of it. I love the color. You can see the color and the design. But there again, if you were using them together, I mean, look at how seamless that is. It really has that cool vibe. That's the other thing about paper collections, is that when you look at it, it's really important to kind of keep in mind that having those colors together also really, really important. I see, yeah, I saw it for just a second where people are saying it's sold out. It's not sold out. So I don't want anyone to start that, because I can say it's not sold out yet. So to put it out there already, I just think is not really accurate. It might be selling fast, and I hope so for the retailer's sake that it's doing well. So, and I'm glad to see you guys are excited. I absolutely love it. Okay, so that one was Dapper, you can see. And we'll talk about the collections again and the colors. Really, really beautiful. But now we're going to get into French Industrial. So this one we're going to see, and you could tell just from the cover, it's a very neutral set with a little pop of red here and there, but for the most part, it is neutral. So it's not grungy and brown like Dapper. It's not red, white, and blue like Correspondence. It really is just, it's its own collection. And that's what I hope you also see about each of these collections. And the reason to bring them back, I brought back all of these because I hope from showing you the art, they're all distinctly different. So it wasn't like, well, we don't need this one because it's kind of like this one. They all have their own charm to them, okay? So This one, French Industrial, I used a lot of vintage French elements that I personally bought and scanned in, and I love how these pieces really came together. We wanted to create a bit of a collage element, which I think is beautiful, but also when it comes to the style of it, we wanted to incorporate like stripes, and you'll see Harlequin, all that. So this is the top piece. You can see the Eiffel Tower in the back, but you can also see just a lot of this typography is handwritten typography. So these are from old documents where it wasn't just a font. Someone actually went in and just, it's all hand lettered. And I just find it so fascinating and so beautiful. And I love just the tones of this one, how faded that is in the background. And there's even, I don't know if you can see from back there, but there's an alphabet that just kind of goes through the background as well. It's just beautiful, beautiful paper. So I love that. Then we've got music in the background. So again, that music, you've seen this on so many things. We even use this for holiday print as well, because this is handwritten music. So it isn't like, you know, a typical music book. This is someone's music notebook. And I love that. I love all the handwritten numbers. I can't read music, but I absolutely love this design. We've used it. This has been a background stamp. It's paper. It's been fabric. It's been released at Christmas. I'm sure it's a backdrop. I'm sure we took some of it. Paula would probably remember more than me, but I'm sure we kept it because it's just, there's something about that art that is amazing, that someone wrote their own music and we're able to get that. So I do love it. Then you'll see the stripes. So we did that blue stripe in, I think it was Dapper, but we did a lot of other colors because, you know, often when we do a collection and we see that people like it or how things are used, we want to do it again, or vice versa. This was the first one we did, so obviously this is one that set the stage, and then people wanted, I think it was Paula that said, I want a certain color blue in that stripe we did for French Industrial, so we added it to Dapper. That to me, because it all fits. So keep that in mind as well. If you're getting this paper and you're using it, don't think you have to stay within the collection. Gosh, we all know that as creators. You do your thing. But even the scale of the stripes, that's really a nice thing for this typography. So then we've got just that handwriting. That's the back of this one. And the handwriting is really fun because this was just a large sheet, and I just loved how kind of wispy the stroke was of that. So we just did a whole sheet of it. Because wherever you cut these, it's just going to be great. Even if you have the bigger one, you're like, well, what do I do with that real estate? Well, you embellish it. You add anything. You add a lot of, I just saw Paula ticking, never goes out of style. You add things like you can do your paper dolls or do your stamped images or your fabric collage if you're going to start adding fabric to paper. There you go. And this is where we started getting, I mean, at the time, I do remember this, we thought like, this was really edgy, you know, where we're like, let's take some photographs and put it in paper. And now, I mean, we've even done a backdrops volume where we've done full-on photos as paper, but it's really cool to see kind of how it started back in French Industrial. And that was really, you know, Paula's influence of like, let's try this. And we tried just crazy things in each set, and I think that shows. I do love this because it's got all these men in top hats, and it's got just like an industrial ledger receipt, and then just some handwriting and a little total here. But even the top, like look at the top here where it says Paris, like look at that handwriting. This is so cool. It's so cool. This you'll see like from the colors, how the colors are just much cleaner. That's really where not just the art, but even the printing technology from 2013 to today, we're just able to dial in and get such a completely different contrast and color to the paper. So I do love that. The back of that one, well, we've got this wonderful bicycle. I love the bicycles, and look at all these goggles for the cyclist. This came from a French catalog as well. Very steampunk, of course. I just saw so steampunky. Yeah, it has a very cool steampunk look because you can incorporate a lot of these with idea-ology gears or anything. But yeah, isn't that cool? See, and you wouldn't think like, how is that paper? Well, it is. It started out as paper. It could be great background paper for whatever it is that we want to create. I love it. All right. Then this one was really, I think, our approach at like layering and working with different scale. These were scans from all different envelopes. So we took the post cancellation, this little stain here, that's a stain from a wax seal. You know, when a wax seal was ripped off of an envelope, it was, you know, often stained with a little bit of that red wax. And we just did this whole collage, and I love this. This turned out as beautiful fabric as well. But just the detail of this paper is wonderful for backgrounds of journals, or if you're doing some type of travel documents, or even if you're scrapbooking and doing a layout of this. That's the beauty of this, because yeah, for those that are scrapbooking and you've been wanting 12 by 12 in ideology, this would be your one chance to get it. But I love it. I think that seeing it was important, and that's why I decided, like, for this live, I'm like, I'm just going to take you through a journey of the paper. Some people, it's like a creative show and tell. That's what I see it as. There again, this is just a different type of handwriting, because sometimes there were documents that I bought this old French ledger when I traveled to Paris. I remember that. Remember that, Mario? We were with Alan. We were with Ludmilla. It was my first time to Paris, and we went to this antique market. And I found this ledger on the ground. It was huge, just stacked with papers. And I wanted it. I don't really remember. I mean, I'd like to say the prices, but I don't remember at the time. But I know, here's the ridiculousness. I asked the guy how much it was, and it was like something around like $500. And I was like, oh gosh, crazy. But we're traveling with a friend that we met in Paris. Her name is Ludmilla, and she was one that we became friends at a trade show because I was demoing in Paris and I didn't speak French, and the people watching me were not interested because they didn't speak English. And she was demoing her own product in the same stand, and she just saw how I was struggling, and I'll never forget this, she stopped what she was doing, stopped selling her line to sit at my table, and she translated for me the entire time. She never went back. So for the rest of the show, she stayed there, and everything I was saying, and she still works with Ranger doing a lot of their French translations. So Ludi Pops, I love you. It was so, so nice. But I told her, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want that ledger, but it's like $500. She goes, leave it to me. So she goes over and starts speaking all her French stuff. But here's where we got it. So she was like, I want that ledger, I'm interested, how much is that? And he quoted her like 300 at the time. And he goes, because it's old and rough looking. And she said, are you talking about me or are you talking about the book? And he got so embarrassed that he's like, no, like, madame, like, and she's like, I can't believe I didn't come into your booth to be insulted. And she just like was really razzing him. We ended up walking out for $100. We got that ledger, and he was like, thank you, merci. It was so fun. So I do remember that trip. Alan's here. We had good time. It was good fun. All right. It's just funny how, like, this collection.
That guy lit up in red when she said that. He was so embarrassed.
He was embarrassed.
He was really embarrassed.
Yeah, but that was Ludmilla. You never knew what to expect. But, like, that's what even this, it just reminds me of a memory of, when I bought this ephemera. So I love these documents. This is actually 2 big checks that we scanned in. But take a look at that. It's just, the documentation and the stamping and the staining is just, it's beautiful. And we've taken some of this art and isolating it into an actual stamp set with Stampers Anonymous. So some of these cancellations we scanned in and kind of isolated and used it. But yeah, absolutely beautiful papers. That's what's so fun about French Industrial. I love the collection. So this is where we start getting into some of the Harlequins, some little diamonds. So you'll see a couple of these, I think, in some different colors in this set. But it's a really subtle diamond pattern, which I like. I just think that it has a very French vibe with the whole Harlequin, but there's also some script that just kind of fades in and out. And even the coloration of all of these, you can see it has a little bit of a gray with a bit of grunge. It's quite beautiful, isn't it? I just love that. It's so, so nice. So it's just really, really pretty. Then we've got another map. I love this map of Europe. I have a lot of different atlases that I collect, and this was a map from one of them. I love the colors of it, just because it has, again, those grays. It kind of reminds me of weathered wood, ice spruce, just beautiful, with some lines in there. So we did this map. I also love the fact that, you have that little bit of a semicircle lines going in that paper. So it's really pretty. The back of this has a little bit, this is kind of a faded damask. We've used this design a lot for Halloween, actually. I think I'll hold the bigger one up. Well, whichever one you can see it in. But there's little, like, number calculations all over it, which is quite odd, but quite cool. I remember when we did this and Chris was just laying it down. Sometimes he'll just layer another document over it, and Paul and I are like, oh, right there, we like it. It's just so random. And you'll see it in person, like when you have it. That's what I really like about it, because then you can use this paper in any orientation. And to me, that's what's really, it's fun. All right, the Chocolatiers. This is actually a vintage photo that I bought when I was there. And I love it because, Yeah, they were chocolatiers. They really were. So we put all of these old chocolate cards with it that we scanned in because I just felt that it was really fitting, and I just love that pop of red on this particular paper. So you can see all of these. These were all different advertising cards for different types of chocolates. So just really was fitting with that photo. Love that on the paper. And then a little bit of handwriting. So this is just a real fun one to use and work with because you can get a lot of different elements out of that. That's really, really simple, that you can just cut it apart and do all different things. Ooh, one of my favorites. I love this one, probably because it has more of a circus vibe. This is the back of this one where we kind of carried that red over. But I love this because not only can you use it for French industrial, but it does have the ultimate vintage circus vibe. If you're into that, or if you're doing steampunk or, you know, an amusement park, kind of step right up and you're doing tickets. It's a great, great design. This design was also in a stamp, so if you wanted to, you can stamp your own stripes like that. But just like Paula said, ticking never goes out of style. It's good, good. I absolutely love it. Okay. Then this one, this is just kind of an old, this did come from like a spelling book where it was giving different letters or different words to spell, and these were the title pages of each one. So we got the full alphabet out of it. And what's really interesting, and I'll hold this up, is not only do you get this, so I'm kind of telling you what they were because, again, if you're getting the paper, I know you're looking at this and you're like, oh, this paper is wonderful, but cut it up because now you have all these cards that could go into little pockets or use as ephemera. So a lot of this paper you can cut up and get some great ephemera, but each one of these letters have things associated with that particular letter. You know, when you're looking at like automobile or it was just really cool, like with balloon. I mean, every single thing has all of these little illustrations. I don't know if you can see that in the background. Now, they don't all pertain to that same letter. At least I don't think so. But I can, you know, E, elephant, I kind of got that one. But some of these drawings, I really don't even know what they are. But I love them nonetheless because the illustration is so detailed. And this was actually the scale that they started out to be. So this could be something that you could actually go in with like your watercolor pencils and highlight some of these things and color it, or I just think that's really just a fun design. The back of this one, well, just some great, again, typography. So this is the back. See, I'm telling you all the secrets now, but it doesn't matter because it's designed and it's cool and you can see it. I'm trying to find things, shuffling through. Okay, so this, okay, I don't know if you can see on this paper. This is how the paper is. It's got beautiful handwriting on it, okay, some stamps. But I don't know if you can see that. You see how this looks really smudgy and blurry? Because this is the back of this. So if you can see like the number flipped over, okay, you can see the stain, you can see the BPF like right here. Because this paper was so thin, it's like, you know, onion skin paper, I think they call it. It's really, really thin. So the ink bled through. And when we flipped it over, we loved just that smudginess of it, almost like it was bleeding through, you know, this side of the paper. So we incorporate it. So just a little fun fact that you probably didn't care to know because it was, you know, canceled by the bank on the back. So that's really why we scanned it in. It's like, ooh, but I love all that. That's just good. That's cool. Love the stamp as well. So a lot of fun. All right, I remember this guy. This guy is actually in the closet of the studio because when we launched French Industrial, we blew up some of this art and we literally wallpapered the booth with the paper. And so I think he was bigger than life size when he was done, but when we took it down from the booth, I'm like, I need that piece, and it's hanging in the closet. If you see the studio tour, you've seen this guy. He's also a paper doll for Idea-ology, but I love the photo of this man. We kind of tell the whole story of like, yeah, he owns this car dealership, whatever. Doesn't really matter. He could be a magician, he could be anything. But yeah, it was a big time thing. I mean, that was, I think, the first time, and we learned a lot that time when we were trying to stick those things up on the wall. Paula, see, even remembers, you know, even the booth aspect of it. And we like had like big chalkboards and farm tables and, you know, we had stuff hanging from the ceiling. We were doing crazy things, hanging paintbrushes and mattresses and suitcases. And well, that's the fun thing. That's another thing I would suggest. If you wanted to see some inspiration, if you go on timholtz.com and you go into the search bar at the top right corner and type in Creativation, you'll go back to like when we were at the trade show and we share a lot of the booth tours, or you can find them on YouTube because a lot of people did booth tours of Creativation, but then you can see exactly what I was talking about. You could see the booth where it had it in there and how we propped it, as well as the makes. So that's a fun thing. But yeah, great paper. So, who knew this slide would be so nostalgic? Gosh, I'm loving it. Loving that. It brings up all those memories. Here's another Harlequin. This one you can see is just a bit more of the brown side. The art would be the same. It's just going to be a different color. So instead of that steel gray blue, it just has that wonderful brown kind of coffee stain to it. All right. The next one, I love this. Little papers and cartons. Again, a ledger. Would love the header because of all the, not only the typography, but the print of this. A lot of open space that you can collage. And then, of course, the back of this one, here we go. You have just that wonderful ticking, just those stripes. This one is just more gray than the one in Dapper, and I think that's, I mean, now that I see this one in the paper, I know why we did more of a bluer version. But yeah, so we have gray ticking in there. So love it. Love seeing that. Another bit from the catalog. This was just some random things. A lot of them were like sewing notions, you know, cotton batting and ribbon and scissors and pins. But I bought so many. Gosh, I remember going around with Alan and Ludmilla. Remember, Mario, we went to like every little alleyway, every ephemera shop. I just wanted to collect because there's nothing better than, you know, designing stuff using real vintage. I think that it's the easiest thing to kind of create with it. So I love the look of that. Isn't that cool? Really, really beautiful. All right. So the back of this one, and I mean, I say the back, doesn't really matter whether it's front or back. You get the idea. It's just how they're in the pack. Another photo one, different photos, right? The other men had top hats. These guys have bowler hats, a bit more industrial. I love the little bulletin here. And of course, the steampunk vibe. I just love how they're kind of faded in so they don't overpower anything. But of course, you can cut that and crop it and still use it in a journal because it gives you a lot of space. Or if you're going to use it as a card, you can actually create so many cool elements with it. So it was fun. Alan said Paris was a fabulous. Yeah, I learned a lot of stuff. I learned a lot about. We ate at Paul pretty much every time.
Gosh,
it's like Mario loved the baguettes every time we were there. So very cool. Then our final one in French Industrial, you can see just again another great kind of receipt. This is probably my favorite section of that. I love the detail and the typography in there. It just has such a beautiful, unique aesthetic to it because it's just the difference, the uniqueness of the typography on this particular piece of, I think this was the edge of a receipt as well. But yeah, even down to the numbers, and I mean, we kept everything we could, even down to the crease. You see that crease? That's printed in there. So why not? Keeps it real, gives it that authentic look. And then of course another piece of that damask in there with just a little bit of numbers. Maybe you can see the math in there a little bit better. Oh, there's some of it. Gosh, it's so weird. I can see it clear as day, but when I hold it up to the camera, it's like it becomes invisible, which I guess is cool. It's part of the background. So yeah, wonderful, right? That is...
Remember scanning every piece of this in.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, French Industrial. Mario did all the scanning. Yeah. So that was French Industrial. All right, we still have 2 more collections. Hope you guys are open for it. So this is where things start getting really interesting. You know, we saw where the papers were going, but I think even in the world of ideology and how we were using it, and even the makers, we just found like people were really getting comfortable with doing a lot of collage and a lot of layering and using the papers differently than, you know, as a 12 by 12. We were cutting it apart and adding things and adding ephemera and adding layers and adding photos. So I think that's really what inspired Memoranda, because the makers were doing it and we were seeing it done. But I think from an end user, it was like, well, where do I start and how do I know what to layer and where do I find all those pieces to kind of build? And we thought, hey, what if we did a collection where we kind of built that foundation for the maker and then you could just embellish. You could add that paper doll, you can add the embellishment, you can do all of those different things to tie on. And that's really where Memoranda came in, as well as our first found love for the tape, because every paper we taped, we're adding the tape. And that, I think, and I mean, gosh, let's see. So Memoranda was in 2017 and tape came out in 2024, right? Yeah. So 7 years from when we wanted to, I just can't even believe that when I say it out loud. I mean, I don't think I'm wrong. 7 years because I knew what I wanted, but we could not find a way to manufacture this because I've seen people done, Paul, we always wanted tape. I saw people do this tape with like packaging tape and alcohol ink, and there was definitely ways to mimic this. But we wanted pieces, but more importantly, we wanted them like this, all different sizes and different grunge aesthetics. Because if you were doing it on a roll, you were kind of committed to the width and you were committed to the repeat. And it took us, I can't even believe that, how long it took us, 7 years. But then we figured it out. I mean, not only found a manufacturer, I'm like, let's just do it as stickers. So that's where the sellotape stickers came, and it was just, wow, just amazing. So what we did on this is we have actual ephemera pieces that we scanned in. So all of, like, that's in my living room, that's by a little typewriter. I mean, all of these elements. And then we had yellow stained tape that was scanned in. And then through the magic of Chris, he was able to make it transparent again. And so we digitally applied the tape. It's crazy. So this is Memoranda. You'll see that each design will have a full collage on the front, and then the back, it's going to kind of take one of these little prints. I think this is also, Paula's love for the ditzy prints when we started using them, this smaller scale. We took that print and that became the back, but then we always added some tape. Some of this was masking tape, like the ones on the back, this was scanned in masking tape just because we needed a larger scale, but that's what you're gonna see as we go through Memoranda. All right, so the first one, of course, you can see is just kind of an old school register with the little student names. Love the handwriting, Minnie and Ella and George and Bertie, Robert, so love it. Frank, there's Frank right here, David, and then of course all the little, I think probably their grades for the day, who knows. But then also a little report card back here. This was an attendance certificate, another report card down here. And again, all those pieces it's just digital tape. So there's nothing there, but man, doesn't it look real? So real. And I love the different scale of it just because, well, you'll want both. That's the whole thing. All right. Then the back of this, you can see, again, that little print that I was talking about, but then we layered over some of that ephemera where we just kind of made it transparent, where it became more of a stamp. But see, even the coloration of the tape, we wanted to keep as real as possible because some tapes are more yellow, some are more brown. It's just, that's cool. Then this one, I love this guy. He's just got such a cool stoic appearance, the merchant tailor. So we did this guy with receipts. I love these little red labels. So see, that's just part of the paper. We've got all those little labels that came in. I think this came from an old deed. Yep, it's an old deed that I have. The book is like that, and these labels actually wrapped around the pages of the book, and so we scanned it in that way. It's just really cool. So you'll see that this is the same art that we used on the sellotape. We just did it more to scale for every day. Love the pen nibs. There's a little envelope right there. But I mean, doesn't that just look so grungy and inked? Because it was. That's what we wanted to do. We wanted that cool foundation for this paper collection. The back, I love this one. Just kind of has that wonderful golden look to it. There's that big piece of tape that goes across, the shadowing, the staining, the little upholsters, because yes, it reminded me of like vintage upholstery, right? Like could be an old couch or maybe a pair of drapes. Like, it's just cool art. I love that. So that is the back. And yeah, we kept everything in there. House is completely furnished. Yeah. So it's the details. All right. So then the map. So this was the map that we had. What was this map in Correspondence? Let me just look. Dapper. Yes, that was the one from Correspondence. But obviously we took a bigger scan of it so we could use more of it. And then we added a lot of shipment kind of cargo. This is a little engine report, little departure of a train. Just love the whole travel vibe of this. And again, to me, it's the tape that secures that. And when you see that, hopefully this also gives you the inspiration that when you're creating, like if you just want to layer something, that is the magic of that sellotape, is because you can literally just put a piece on top of a piece and typically you'd be like, well, I needed to have more of a transition. This was so freeing. I mean, you can ask Paula, when we design, I am so linear, I freak out. If something is slightly off skew, I'm like, we need to fix that. We need to straighten it. But for Memoranda, I just like let it go, because somehow, even though this piece is crooked, the tape wasn't. And so it made it, it anchored it. Or if this piece was straight, then the tape could be crooked. Does that make sense? Because to my eye, this is still very balanced, even though a lot of stuff is on the wonk. I don't care. So that's the other cool thing about using the tape. It connects it. So beautiful, beautiful paper. And you'll see in here, that little corner, well, remember that where I talked about it? We used that pattern again in Memoranda, but this time it is different than in the other collection that we used it in, because we've got the big bit of tape. We've got a lot of foxing, which is that kind of weird little marks that you get in old paper and books. And then this has a time return chart. Fun fact, I did a time return chart in my first paper line with Design Originals, and then incorporate it in that. So see, some stuff comes really full circle. I absolutely love that. So cool paper, cool with a map. Then we have this one. This one was beautiful because we actually, once we did French Industrial, it was like, okay, now we're going to always cover the walls in the ideology booth. And we blew this one up to wallpaper and actually wallpapered the walls of the booth with this. This stuff was massive scale, and this design was really beautiful because it's the whole chrysanthemums. I love the whole, I think, layout of this particular paper. It is a favorite. So you can see just from little catalog pages, this is the silver medals awarded for chrysanthemums. This is their ledger receipt. I love that. Again, another one from a little garden book. This is from a little receipt book, but we loved the pen color. I'll hold it up closer just so you can see it. See all those different ink colors, blue, black, red, just loved it. The labels in here stained, and then tape to anchor it all together. And tape could just, yeah, it's so weird how my eye sees this is perfectly balanced, and I know that tape is wonky as can be. Beautiful. The back of this one, well, we took that little design, and that became the back, and then that same certificate that you saw on the front, that was the actual paper. Through the magic of Chris and all of his Photoshop skills, he's able to like remove the paper and leave only behind the text. And I love just seeing that where we have that slight text overlay in the background. We did that because, you know, pattern paper is pattern paper, but we learned a lot that, you know, if you cut this up and you have a little bit of interest, you'll get more, I think, use out of it, because you're always going to have something random, and that gives you that head start to embellish. I think that's the most important thing. So I do love that. I saw somebody ask about the smell of Paper Stash. This has the most wonderful ink smell ever. That's the first thing I did when I opened it, is I sniffed it. Mara's like, is there a problem? I'm like, I love the way this paper smells because of the printing. It's just wonderful. All right, so this one you can see took a little bit of that map from Correspondence, but gave it, I think, more of an industrial mechanical vibe on this one, probably because of this little accelerator label. But then we have like arithmetic, a lot of numbers, all the little totals in here, the tallies. And then, of course, this is another railway. This is from the cloakroom, so it's got like hats and rugs, but numbers. Whenever we can find unique numbers, we just go for it. So I do love that. So scale, really important. That's why I hope this is helpful, that you're seeing it on the screen so you totally get the scale of something. And to me, I think they're both usable and both important. So the back of this one, this is just taking that multiplication table and celebrating that graph. We got a big graph, a big strip of that tape, but I love the multiplication table that goes all the way down, because again, we've got, 1 times 2, and I love how it just has times in there. So this could be used so many different ways. It's so awesome to see this, so it's good. All right. We actually did a fabric collection for Memoranda. I saw someone say fabric collection, please. Sandy, that fabric collection I think has already come and gone, but it was out there. We did this in fabric, and it was remarkable because the fabric has the tape on it. It's this. So yeah, we actually did that. That was several years ago when we did Memoranda fabric. So you might still be able to find it if you Google it. You might be able to find someone that still has some or is selling it, but it's beautiful. So this one, look at this. This is, I mean, I remember this water staining. We incorporated this water staining a lot from kind of here on out because I love what it did to the paper. It makes this paper look rippled, but it's not. It's totally smooth, but it was a whole nother thing that when we discovered this on a piece, it was like, yeah, we need to add that. I mean, we have all little code words. We have like foxing and drippage. And I mean, once we were designing with Chris, Paul and I would say like, yeah, add the drippage, add the, like, Yeah, I mean, I remember it now because there's just, and there's things that we discovered that we learned, and we learned by doing. We learned that each collection there was an element that we found very unique that we wanted to carry forward, and I think that's what's super important when it comes to that. So I do love this one. I love the one with the bits of tape and yeah, the dispensing chemist. So the back of this one, this is where you're really going to see how much like we went to town, because this was the whole stained piece, and it's like, we're going to use it. Kind of looks a little moldy, but I couldn't love it more. I would love this as just a design that I could put on a wall, right? Wouldn't this be great wallpaper? I don't necessarily care that it's yellow. Probably wouldn't want yellow wallpaper, but the stain, I'm all for that. I think that is really beautiful. So I love this one. But see, we could achieve that with just inks and things, like letting it dry. You know, put a little ink down and hose it with water so that ink gets to the edge and let it sit there. So even being inspired by a certain effect that you can recreate. So beautiful. All right. Then we have this one's a bit cleaner. You can see again from a ledger book. There's the spine of that ledger. There's a little alphabet book sheet. I love that. Some labels that came from a little calendar. And then this really pretty blue wallpaper in the back. That's the design. Isn't that great? It's such a great pattern in the back. And the blues really tie well together on the front and the back. Have some tape. Has a little bit. See, there you go. Memorandum pocketbook. That was the inspiration for the collection name. Because it was like, what do we call this? Do we call it collage? Like, I don't know. And as we were going through it, like that name stuck with us. So there it is from that sheet. Memorandum. And if you want to ever look, I mean, I know we've been talking a lot about paper, fabric, stamps, because it's everything. I mean, a trip down memory lane, this definitely inspired a lot of other things. If you go to timholtz.com and you go to Eclectic Elements on the product page, you'll see all of my fabric collections, and you'll be able to see all the fabrics from the Memoranda collection, all of that. So you can take a look, and that might help you put it into Google and search image-wise. So this one, love this. So this, of course, if you recall, would have been inspired by Correspondence when we did the typewriter, but remember it was really big and this was going across. We took a lot of these elements for Memoranda. These also, this became a stamp. I know I did this with Stampers Anonymous. This became a background stamp. So a lot of different elements. This became a stamp. This became design tape. We've just used different elements. And now having the paper, it's going to be really cool to go and be able to use this paper with those tools. Because at the time, those tools weren't around because it was the paper that inspired those elements. So love this little typewriter one. Isn't that great? And then that old label. So good. Thanks, Mario. Mario put up a link. Here's the back of that. So again, you can see some of that typography in there from the old typewriter, and then just that diamond pattern that we've seen used. Can't go wrong with a good diamond pattern either. Ooh, this is a favorite. I've seen Paula use this. I love this one. This is Alma. Okay, just because this name, like Paula wanted this name on there. I remember this, Paula, how bad she wanted this, because this was from a book. And she wanted that her name written in pencil wasn't on, I don't think it was on the paper. It was actually on the book cover, this red book cover. And it was already kind of faded and erased, but she wanted it so bad that she was saying to Chris, she's like, but I need that name. I want that little Alma Livings, I'm not sure. But he did it. And it was so cool to see it on there. And then, of course, we have just that old, I mean, remember this? In school, the handwriting paper with the little lines that you went in. Absolutely wonderful. This is just a beautiful, beautiful background. And then, of course, we have the little graded spelling book. We have the little report card from St. Mary's High School from 1928 to 1929. Yeah, I was like, I wanted that. It's just beautiful. And then the little lesson. And then, of course, on the back, we did more of that floral, but put more of that spelling book because of that script. Paula also just loved the script of this. So, yeah, there's Frank again. Frank, did you see the sunrise? Yeah, it will be a fair day. The hens have left the roost, and the birds are flying from tree to tree. There you go. There you have it. Wonderful. I'm reading all that faded text in there. It's like this set is like so full of surprises. So take a look at this one. We were talking about fabric. This came from an old Vogue pattern. And then we've got this wallpaper from the roses, again, ticking in the background. That was like an old calendar page. This was scanned in from an old sewing pattern. The labels, and of course, all the tape, just putting it all together. So Memoranda could be any kind of collage you wanted it to be. I think that is so fun when it comes to creating. And even if you're not a paper person, this might inspire you to recreate this with maybe things you have. You might say like, hey, I've got some fabric like this. I've got a piece of wallpaper. I can take some ephemera. I'm just going to start layering it and sticking it down with tape and create your own collages. I think that's wonderful. Here's another one of those tickings. So this is the same ticking that we use. That's the blue one that we had in Dapper, but on this particular one, we layered over the sewing instructions from the pattern. I'll hold this one up a little closer so you can read it. There you go. Because this was a typed out sewing pattern, which I thought was really cool. And then of course the tape in there. So yeah, fun. Love that for Memoranda. We were kind of doing all sorts of themes. Like this one, this was a whole movie theme because we did the tickets. There's another one of those game cards in use. This one, I love, that's just from a newspaper, you know, when they advertise all the movie times, matinee, best seats, $1, none higher. And this, there you go. There's a little coffee ring. I see that. I love the coffee ring. But on this particular one, I think as much as I love the first one, it was this background that I think, especially in the fabric world, it was the background that stole the show. So the background for this one, this little floral, this is all we had of this. And so for the background of this paper, we just did the graph. But the background of this for fabric, we did an entire repeat fabric based off of that little swatch. Because I remember it's like, wouldn't that be beautiful as fabric? I think we even did linen tape as that as well, Paula, if you have to remember back in the day. But yeah, so this is the back of that one. Another large graph. We took one of those tickets and just enlarged it. Really cool typography to cut apart. There's more of that coffee ring stain and tape. It's just, gosh, so good to see it. So good to see it all come together.
Yes, you did do this tape because I have it in the garage. I use it on my box.
Yeah, we did it as linen tape in Ideology. So that little strip of floral, but I remember it was cool. So this was kind of like a nod to French Industrial, because remember, Memoranda was 2017, French Industrial was 4 years back. So bringing out some of those elements and adding in some of that French. So you can see that was one that we talked about that was on that big sheet of paper for French Industrial. Remember, it was really big. We just used that little element because it's just one of my favorites. Beautiful. There's the blue label, the blue stamp. There's another one of the little wax seal stains. So that was a wonderful collage. And then the background of this, of course, is that beautiful floral. This has a wonderful floral. You can see just those roses and the blues and the greens, the big piece of tape. I mean, this would make great wallpaper. All right. Yeah, it would be really good. So absolutely love it. Wonderful, wonderful look at Memoranda. That was the collection. Just beautiful. And again, we'll talk about all the colors. We got one more set to go through and then we'll do a recap. And that collection, and again, we're not doing it chronological, we're doing it alphabetical because my brain just needed it. But this is Wallflower. Wallflower actually came out right after French Industrial. So it was really interesting that as we went through all of the paper lines, we were doing all sorts of different things. You know, we were doing, you know, one collection would be a little grungy. This one was definitely more botanical. And then we went to Correspondence. I mean, so I'll talk about the chronological order when we do the recap. But Wallflower was really beautiful because we added a lot of organic elements to a paper collection that we really didn't have in any of the other collections. And that sparked a lot of other things that I think carried through to Ideology even today, with like layers organic, layers botanical, and just the overall presence of a lot of floral in Ideology. And of course that started back in 2014. So Wallflower just has a lot of floral elements to it. So we start with, these came from all types of different ephemera, some little floral cards, but you'll see a lot of elements that later carried on to different collections, like the typography here. So this one, beautiful assortment of different elements, but gave a lot of space here. So when we were designing paper, I remember back, you know, because this was in the scrapbook days early on, you know, these were considered really busy. And they were, because we were thinking a different way to use them, like maybe you would cut them or fold them or utilize them, but we still wanted to leave some space, some room for people who did want to use them to scrapbook. You could do that. This was another collection that had its own fabric collection. So in addition to Memoranda having a fabric release, Wallflower also had a fabric release. So this was a beautiful fabric. If you look at Quilt Market, on the Tim Holtz website, you'll see we did an entire settee of this. It was just a beautiful old, small, kind of like a love seat, but it had all the wood trim, and this fabric was just amazing on that. But the paper, so beautiful because of the roses, the parcel post, just that element. The background of this, we have this new, it still has, I mean, it has a little bit of a damask vibe, but also some beautiful detailing in the background. You can see the leaves, some little laurel leaves, some little swoops right there. Just has a pretty pattern. So you'll see this used. I absolutely love it. It's so cool to see Wallflower. I think this was probably, I mean, because this was in the early days, probably one of the most challenging collections to design, because we were throwing a lot of stuff on here, different than French Industrial, because we wanted to incorporate so many different nuances and work with transparencies, like work with transparent layers. So when you look at each of these papers, there was a lot going on, but I don't think it was in too busy of a way. It was absolutely beautiful. So you've got, I mean, just calling this out, you've got music in the whole background. That's that handwritten music that we talked about from one of the previous collections, maybe French Industrial. Then we've got this book on nests and eggs. We've got the colors of the eggs, which is really beautiful. This came from an encyclopedia, these faded out drawings of different leaves and florals. Then we have this wonderful image of nests. I even think this was ephemera at some point. Then we have a playing card, but everything is kind of faded, you know, where you can see the music through the card, and then but the text kind of goes under it. So yeah, just really amazing to see all the paper and just how beautiful this was. It was great design. The back, this was really wonderful just because of, and I think there was a version, Paul, you'll have to remember, I don't really remember. I want to say there was a time that we wanted, maybe we didn't do it, but we wanted to like tint this, where we wanted the berries to be a color and the birds to be a color. I'm not sure if we ever did that or we tried it and it didn't work. I can't remember. Maybe Paula knows. But take a look at this one. I love seeing all of those birds and vines and berries, and this was just a print that we really just loved. So yeah, absolutely beautiful, isn't it? I'll have to watch the chat because I can see it in my head. Like there was a version of this that had colored berries and colored birds, but I don't know if we ever printed it or if that was the fabric version, maybe.
She said we tried, but it stunk.
Oh, there we go. Okay. It's like, I remember seeing it and then we're like, we walked away. So, all right. Here's another one from Wallflower. Take a look at, I love just those big, beautiful yellow florals. The background of this one though, I'm going to hold this up so you can see, has a lot going on. So we've got the floral, we have the handwriting. If you look at these number tags in the background, see those number price tags? Those were all scanned in. Then it looks like linoleum. It's like an old school tile print, some ledger. You've got a little ticket there, and then you've got some typography. So each one of these Wallflower papers, I mean, gosh, we're talking like 11 years ago. Just seeing how beautiful these designs hold up is amazing. I'm so glad they're back. Even though it's a limited time, I'm still happy they're back. Here's the back of this design. Just fun. Like I said, it just reminds me of linoleum. I love that old school kind of like avocado green, just the print. I don't know why it makes me think of that, but it's like an old kitchen, but works great for Wallflower. This one, really soft and pretty. This is so peachy, and I think when I bring up each piece and I tell you all the layers, you have to think about it, because now that you've seen the other papers, you can recognize where we pulled things from. So we've got that ticking in the back, just that red ticking in the corner. There's another floral that just has more of some peach, a little saltwater taffy in there. That, of course, is just a French from one of the chocolate cards. There's one of the handwriting samplers that go across. There's the carte postale. That's kind of an old correspondence postcard. And then even some text in the back. And then in the very, very back, there's really faint dictionary through the whole thing. So it's like you kind of have stripes, but not really. It's beautifully done, I have to say. It is beautifully done. So I love this collection. It's nice to see it back. The back of this was just a bunch of dictionary, and this was actually one, I think this was from the first paper stash Lost and Found, where we had a bunch of dictionary pieces, maybe, but we lightened it quite a bit from its original. We brought it back for Wallflower, but it just has some great dictionary pages, definition like flourish and memory and forgive and curiosity. So this to me is like, it's a timeless paper when you have all of those dictionary definitions. It's pretty, right? Then we have this one. A lot of you might recognize this design as a stencil, because it started out as the paper, but this is one of my favorite stencils. I use it quite a bit that I did with Stampers Anonymous. But I love this design. Again, let's look at all the elements that are in here. So in the back, there's a lot of ledger. So you'll see all of this pink and blue. There's a ledger papers kind of layered throughout. There's a little bit of torn dictionary in here with the traveler and traveler's check. We've got the receipt of goods right here. We've got this wonderful botanical that comes up in these rich green colors, a little ticket here, and then just little bits of handwriting throughout the whole thing. And then of course that pattern design that just fades out. It kind of connects it all. So Wallflower has a lot of stuff in it, but it's a beautiful collection. I think that kind of set the way for all of the other things that we ended up doing, you know, that we realized that we could have, you know, things fading in and out and how much we can layer. And, you know, obviously when we got to Memoranda, we knew all about layering, but, you know, connecting it with tape, I think sealed the deal on that one. So there's just a background pattern of that same print design. This was a popular one just because of that wonderful bird, right? That robin. We've got a telegram here, and this is my dearest. So this is something, I love that little handwriting of my dearest. This was actually on a photo, I believe, but we put it on the telegram in red. And this is something that, yeah, I shared with Simon Says Stamp. They actually have, I think they did a stamp of this in their last release of that, because I sent that to them. Just think it's really great. I love that handwriting. But there you can see the bird, the faded eggs, the feathers, really great botanical element, right? And then you can see that tree. We love the roots, just that whole little root system, so cool. And then numbers, always need numbers. There again, a little damask in there, a piece that I think came from another scan of probably a catalog page. And then in the back, little tiny dictionary throughout. Like, my gosh, so much. It's just so incredible how we packed so much in, but when I look at it, they just make me smile, because I look at that and I'm like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Like how much we put into, I mean, I'm just blasting through these, but each design took us sometimes days for one design, sometimes longer, because it was one of those things that we wanted it to be perfect. It wasn't, and because we were using old scanned items, it wasn't easy on Chris at Advantis to do it, because it wasn't like we were giving him a whole digital file and like, hey, do this. It was Mario scanning stuff in, Paula scanning stuff in, you know, wrinkly things that we were trying to smash onto the glass to try to get it to be as crisp as possible. So this one is also really beautiful from Wallflower. We've got, again, another botanical. Here's a little bit of wallpaper in the back, kind of some of that eroded background. This ticket, there's a sewing pattern that you have in there. I love this big butterfly in here. Then you can see this is from J.P. Coates. This is for cotton. It's a little calendar. This calendar is from 1880. Just beautiful to see it all come together. But it was this texture, because the background is actually torn wallpaper. I don't know if that was what sparked Paula to be like, we need to do more of that. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, because sometimes we see it, we're like, we need more of that. And I think this might have sparked doing worn wallpaper as a SKU in Ideology, where we have a pack of wallpaper and elements, because there is something about the texture and the design in that. It was a roller coaster, because when we were done designing one product, we were already designing the next. We never stopped for years. You were always on to the next one. This background, just a really beautiful, I don't know if the camera's picking this up. It's kind of like a seafoam green. It's really, really nice, really pleasant, and very, very faded. But I just love that pattern in there, and you can see that it complements the front of it really well. Paula, that was always Paula's assignment as well. She always had the hardest, I always think she had the hardest thing. We would design the whole collection, because we knew, you know, if we were going to be doing 12 designs double-sided, we need to actually do 24 independent designs. And we would do it, and as soon as we were done designing, it was always Paula's job to do the fronts and backs. Because we had them, and I'm like, I don't know how to pair them up, because they all go. So yeah, Paula would always, and she just always does the amazing job where it's like, yep. So it was never designed in sequence. Keep that in mind. She always just did kind of that front and back. So there you go. This one, a definite favorite. I mean, if I've seen a paper in Wallflower get used a lot, it would definitely be this one. I think probably because of all the beautiful elements, but also the colors of this one. Really, really pretty. I love the pink and white florals that we had with just that anchor of green. It was wonderful. And then of course this is a stamp, right? This is Papillon from Stampers Anonymous, but I love these butterflies in here. Again, there's that progressive series of that spelling book. It has music in the background. It's got this bright pink. This is an Italian, I think from a passport is what it was, because there's a little photograph there. And then a piece from a French ledger. So and everything is layered on this. It's on this one, because this is the back of it. It's all layered on this light blue background design. So many different nuances to this paper. Really, really pretty. It's just is beautiful. It's just so good. Because even though the finishes, like when we do paper, we don't just put the same treatment on every page. This might have some where it looks like it's sanded, you know, it's got some of the white areas. Some designs might be more inked, some like you've seen the water staining. So we always try different effects to the paper design to really make it look unique, or really give you, the maker, the opportunity to just kind of pick it up and go with it. So, you know, even on the overall prints, we could have just left it at that, but no, we wanted to put some texture, as if maybe you stamped or you scraped some gesso on there or splattered a little bit of white paint, just because we wanted to kind of give you the head start on there. Absolutely love it. Okay. This one, well, no surprise, this is one of my favorites. Why? Well, let's see. Big spray painted numbers, little dapper gent right there with the cool mustache, his little tie. We added a little postage stamp and some detailing, but yeah, it was definitely these numbers. But even this one has a lot of elements, so let's talk about it. We've got the background. The background is kind of this tiled pattern that's been lightened quite a bit. Then there's that whole graph timesheet that's across the whole thing. Then there's a map under here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little bit of that map from Expedition. Then we've got all of these large numbers kind of spray painted. We've got a big ticket on here. We've got a stamp. We've got this little bit of detail work of the little flourish with the little star right there. And of course the photograph, there's more of that map that's over here. And then that botanical element on there. Cool, right? So good to see the design of how these images come together, and they just work perfect. That's why really a lot of people are just using it as is, but you can see, depending on what kind of maker you are, that you can use this as such a great foundational piece. And let's say you don't like this. Let's say you're like, you know what, that guy, he creeps me out. Okay, we'll put something over it. Don't set yourself away from a design just because we know we can cover it up. You can put another paper element on it. You can do a paper doll, a portrait. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can create with these papers. Just fun that we had the whole design. This is the back again. I don't know why there's so many things of Wallflower that remind me of, like, you know, 1950s kitchens, but I love it. I love this one. It has that funky green color. I'm not sure. This isn't avocado now. This is very kind of chartreuse, but yeah, I love it. All right, another beautiful one, another favorite, because it has these wonderful birds, these skeleton leaves here, an old birdcage catalog, a ledger, these blue tiles in the back, a game card. So I'll hold it up just so you can see. It's always interesting when you hold it up close to see how many layers were in there. So we've got the bird, then we've got that blue and white tile, which you'll see from the back, but the scale is much larger on this. There are the skeleton leaves. This is from bird cages. How great they had bird cages in a catalog. That's wonderful. Then we have another ledger over there, so we've got a little bit of that handwriting, and then one of those blue number cards, but we've kind of worn away the edges just so it faded more into the background and didn't look like it was glued right to the top. But a beautiful, beautiful paper. And again, scale, important. Absolutely love it. Yeah, the linoleum pattern is great. And then there is that back tile. The tile of this one it's just so pretty because of that blue and white. This one doesn't look so much like linoleum. This just has a beautiful tile look and feel to it. Isn't that pretty? I love that. I love the blues. Hope the camera's picking up color. It's hard, but I mean, I think you can see it when it's got a contrast to it, but really pretty design. Now you can see this one, a lot more colors. I think, you know, we were always inspired by the botanical elements that we did on this one. So this one has a really colorful botanical. It also has this card. This is like an Audubon bird card. And then we've got, this just came from, I think this is from an apothecary. This was like a vintage receipt label, but we liked it. And just more importantly, that kind of pink little stamp that was on it. Then we've got that green background, which is of course the back of this. And then on the top, I think this came God, I want to say this came from an almanac or something. It was just an old sheet that said miscellaneous sales. But I love how all those pieces come together. But take a look at the botanicals in there. Isn't that pretty? So even this one, it's like you split it. This has a completely different vibe than that one. So you could use it so many different ways when it comes to working with the papers. I hope you guys are excited to, it's kind of like, that's what I said, it's kind of like a new release, but it's not new, but it might be new to a lot of you, or maybe you had it, or maybe you used it, and you're excited that it's back so you can use it again and not fear of running out, at least not at this point. So there's the scale of that green tile. And then we have this one. And this one was, I remember there was a lot of debate when we were doing this one, but we ultimately fell in love with it and we went with it because we didn't know if it was going to freak people out, because as you saw through Wallflower, it all had a very botanical, pretty vibe. But there was something about this insect art when we found it and the colors that it's like, well, we have to do it. So this page you can see have all of these different insects, and it was just cool. It was because the coloring was already there on that art. Absolutely love that. But then you can see we did like a little honeycomb / chicken wire in the background that it's really faded. But then of course we have these tiny little, well, they're not lemons, but we did them yellow, so they kind of look like fruits, just kind of an Italian tile. It reminds me of Italy so much. And then there's dictionary in the back, some definitions, and then all of these different botanicals in grayscale. And then we've got just a big price tag in the bottom, but everything kind of fades through. I just love this one. This one's really great, especially if you're doing anything like field notes or backgrounds. But yeah, yes to bugs. I agree totally, Halloween, Zoe. It's a great paper, but I'm glad we kept it in. So we're like, does it really go? I'm like, yeah, it goes. I mean, it has botanical, but yeah, insects, nature. And here's the background to this one. This is what I was saying. It just has, I don't know, it has an Italy vibe to me. I love it because I love the colors. I love the pop of yellow, little limoncello, just beautiful. Little tile work and all the detail. So that is the background of that paper. And again, when you see it, here, let's do the background. Let's do the front of that. See, like, how do you, Paula does that. Because again, you're seeing that nuance just fade in if you were going to layer these. Yeah, really great. It does. I agree, Christine. It does remind me of entomology. Because insects, that's good. So, to review, let's do the paper collections again. So we're going to start, now we're going to do this in chronological. So these are the 6 that have come back. Again, for those that maybe joined us a little late, this is a vault release of 6 paper collections from idea-ology. It is a one and done release. Once it's sold out, it will never make a return. It's just an opportunity that I had to bring it back. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to bring it back. So get what you'd like, stock up on it, use it. It comes in both 8x8 and 12x12. So this is the French Industrial Collection. You can tell from the gray band down here. This was from 2013. Wow. I know. Now we're going this way. Now I'm going to start feeling old. Like, okay. Then the next release after French Industrial, we launched Wallflower, which we just covered. So Wallflower was the next collection that came in the idea-ology. So you can see like quite a departure from collection to collection. But keep in mind, as we release these collections, these remained in the line through until 2021. So it wasn't like, oh, we replaced it. So it was really nice to see people using this with previous collections. I think that's great. The next one was Correspondence. So you can see even from that, what a departure we took from Wallflower and of course French Industrial. Now each one has a different color on the bottom so you can recognize the collection. So it didn't used to in the first release, they were all beige at the bottom, but Chris, when we did this new release, he's like, I'm going to do the bottoms each a different color so you can tell the different sets. So I think that's a cool touch. Then we have Dapper. So Dapper is when we started going into all the cigar bands, those great numbers, the number cards, the ruler pieces, all of that. But again, you could see as we're building the collection, it was like, it was needed. We went from neutrals to colors and florals to very kind of red, white, and blue postal, and then all those warm vintage colors of Dapper. And then we came into the world of Memoranda, which kind of exploded everything for us. I really think this was the paper line that set idea-ology on a different course where we just saw the importance of having more layers, more ephemera, more baseboards, more pieces of actually like building with papers and not just sticking things down and calling it done. So I love that Memoranda kind of came along, and it was almost like it would just used elements from all of these put together, but it's so distinctly unique as Memoranda. And then speaking of unique, we just decided to finish in something that, like, honestly, if you look back at all these paper collections, Abandon has no place in ideology, but that's what makes it perfectly fitting for ideology. Ideology was always the brand of, like, the unexpected. You'd never knew what we were going to release, whether it was little salvage dolls or whether it was a little jar of wishbones. I mean, I remember, I always look in these little things because there's a lot of things that I keep here, like film strip ribbon when we did that. And this has nothing to do with paper, but I know I have a little jar of wishbones in here. Here we go. Okay, like, would you believe this was a product? It was. It was a jar and it says wishes, and in it, they are little wishbones and they have little speckly, fleckly things on there, and it's just the cutest little embellishment. But these are great on, like, you're like, what would I want a wishbone for? Tie a little string on it and as a birthday card, make a wish, or best wishes, or good luck wishes. You can use wishbones, believe it or not, all year. It's not just like a weird Thanksgiving thing. It's just using it. But a lot of people were buying it because this is how it's packaged. It comes in the jar with the label. And people were buying it just to sit it on a shelf because they love the idea of just a jar of wishes. Even this one, this was film strip ribbon. We still sell this, but it's probably going to be retired soon. But this is a whole, it doesn't come in a tin anymore. It used to. It's a whole package of film strip that's stained around the edges and has little holes punched in it. Like, literally like film strip. Those are the things that I think make ideology unique. And that's why I love about this whole paper release, going from Abandon with that bright, colorful art, then Memoranda taking that whole trip back, Dapper, Correspondence, Wallflower, and French Industrial. So I totally get it when people saw this paper, they had their favorites, or in 2021 when all of these retired at the exact same time, they were just gone. And there was no back inventory to be had from retailers to even get a chance to stock up. It just went away. So I get it, and I'm really grateful that these are back for a limited time. I absolutely love that. So that is the Vault paper release for ideology.